making this film because we have lost far too many of our friends, classmates, and siblings to suicide.
And because we've learned that the causes of suicide are treatable.
It is our goal that friends should be able to help one another, and as a result, fewer lives will be lost.
This film is a story of our friends.
I was getting ready for bed, and I got a call, and I said, "Who is that inconsiderate asshole calling me at midnight?" Didn't answer the phone, and then
It was 7 in the morning, and my mobile phone and my landline were both ringing off the hook.
So I picked it up, and he told me that they had found him, and he had died, and that was it.
I just knew when I saw them that they were about to tell me that my sister had died.
And I just remember, there's not really any other experience that can compare to having your friend brought out in a body bag, and it's just kind of terrifying.
He's always sort of the life of the party. He's just had a big smile on his face all the time. Really, really nice guy. He's really cared about his friends.
And he was always fun. He was always really goofy. You always had a good time with him and laughed with him.
You know, there was a lot of years that we would spend almost every weekend hanging out.
I was going over to visit him with a friend, and we rode up the street and saw ambulances and fire trucks and police cars. When we were there, the police aren't allowed to tell you what's going on when you're at a scene like that, so we just kind of stood there and were scared out of our minds for a good while before anyone would tell us what had happened.
I love these pictures. In the booth, we're just playing around, having fun, and she loved like the Botticelli and Venus, and she was such an artist. And so this is in August before she died. She died in October, and then this next picture is the following August, and obviously I'm there in the booth by myself.
I just remember feeling numb, and I remember calling my tennis coach to tell him I wasn't going to be able to make it to practice. And I couldn't even speak to him on the phone. I just started breaking down. I started to cry. And yeah, we went to go meet up with Kim and tell the news to her.
I go to the door, and I see my parents and my brother sitting there, my mom, and they look a wreck, and it all happened so quickly. My mom's like, "Your sister committed suicide last night." And I ran down the stairs, and I just threw myself on the street outside, and I was screaming and crying, and it's like your whole world collapses, and nothing makes sense, and you feel like you're grabbing, and the air is just moving through, and you wish you could just go back a few hours. A few hours, that's all. Just take me back. And it's so final.
I lost a friend of mine to suicide 3 years ago.
When I was in college, I had attempted suicide.
Suicide almost 4 years ago, and I lost a friend to suicide.
8 years ago, I attempted suicide.
I lost my friend to suicide a little under 2 years ago.
Stepped in and helped a friend who was contemplating suicide.
I'm here because my friend attempted suicide.
Lost a really good friend to suicide about 2 years ago.
I guess I'm pretty upbeat. I look forward to the future, look forward to what I can do in the future, where I can get to, what my career will be like. a month into my freshman year, I started to be really depressed. Started talking to much fewer people, eating alone, eating less. It was like suddenly something just snapped and everything fell apart. It was like I could see my entire life crumble, and everything that I believed that I knew just kind of disappeared. Didn't really want to be around anybody because I didn't want them to see me the way that I was. So it just kind of left me there with my depressive thoughts, alone, contemplating suicide, writing about it, thinking about death pretty much constantly. Went very, very low till I attempted suicide.
My big outlet was photography. I would go down to a river that's right near me, and I would always take sunset photography.
He was in a few of my classes, and I'm a very outgoing person. We just started talking. We became like good buds. That's pretty much it. That's how we met.
Before I even started feeling like I had a problem, and before I even knew what it was, I just thought it was sadness. And I really didn't even know if it was depression or not, and I really wasn't educated about depression. I just was not really feeling good about my life, and like it felt like I really didn't even have any friends, almost like I was alone, like in the world, and kind of like it was like closing up on me.
I just kind of picked up on it, you know, like I could just pick up on his personality a little bit. That just kind of, I don't know, he seemed to get, you know, like a little bit more down in the dumps. That's like when I really started to notice it.
I felt like I couldn't run from it anymore, so I felt like the only way out would be to try to kill myself, because I didn't see anything to live for, and I didn't see anything like really great happening in my future.
You hear of depression and you're like, oh, depression, they're just really upset. They need to just get over it. I mean, that's what I initially thought. Like, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they just be happy? Why can't they just, why do they have to be so sad?
For people who haven't been through a depression, it's hard to understand just how strong it really is.
Everything just feels really slow. And it's like walking around with really heavy chains on.
It just seemed like even the people who were close to me were so far away from me, like I was encased in glass or something, and I just couldn't reach out and touch them.
Confusing, you can't really tell what's around you. You're swamped, you feel like you're gonna die at any moment.
It's extremely frightening. It's immobilizing. There's no appetite or thirst for knowledge, for passion, for life, for love.
Basically, you're in a dark room, and you don't know where the door is.
People we know or who may be close to us.
People we may look up to.
People all around us.
Many people can and do experience depression.
It really began to affect my school, my work, and everything.
I went from being the student that gets A's and B's to a student who makes C's and D's.
Felt really distant from everyone. I was all alone.
She never wanted to go out. She never even wanted to leave her house.
A lot of the feelings for me was, my friends really didn't care that much about me.
Hopeless and feeling that no one else understands where you are.
Self-medication, drugs and alcohol. A lot of times you just don't realize it until you're deep into it.
He was more depressed when he was drinking, I think that brings it out a little bit He probably drank a little too much, but then a lot of people at 21 drink a little too much.
She loved to sing. She would blare country music through her car. I remember I was in her car and I apologized for getting crumbs everywhere, and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it," and took my whole thing of crumbs and threw them all over the car. I just remember laughing and laughing and laughing. At the time, when I first was getting to know her, I didn't figure it out right away. I knew she wouldn't wear shorts, and I knew that she wouldn't wear anything short-sleeved, because we'd swap clothing, and I could always wear all of hers, and she would not wear very much of mine, because I loved tank tops and things. And I didn't really know why. And it wasn't until later that I found out that she had scars all over her legs and arms. By the time I was getting concerned, I knew that she was a cutter. I knew that she had insomnia pretty often, and she'd go through a whole month just flunking everything, and then another month acing everything. So she was really up and down. She'd say that she was upset, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry about me. I'm just going to go home and slit my wrist or something." But, you know, so she'd sort of throw it out there, and it'd be the kind of thing where you sort of stop and raise your eyebrow and be like, "What?"
You know, they may not be serious. They may just sort of be really depressed, and, you know, people sort of joke around about it and whatnot, but, you know, you just never know. I mean, you never know who's serious, and, you know, certainly nobody thought that he was serious about it. When he was really up, he was, you know, he was great, he was laughing, he was having a good time, you know, big smiles, and then when he was down, it was very noticeable.
In the lows, I was absolutely pessimistic, very sullen, moved slow, talked slower, couldn't think as fast. Opposed to the highs, sometimes it would be the more euphoric type of high. Smiling and laughing and making jokes all the time and going to parties and hanging out all night and drawing all night and doing paintings, and did some music composition, doing some music classes, and just doing practically everything. And then sometimes it would switch into a more irritable, angry phase, very bitter, cynical, verbally vicious. I almost got into a couple fights. Close friends that I had just really didn't know what to make of it all.
People who get down but are in a generally healthy mindset, no matter how difficult things are, can generally say to themselves, "I know that it's going to get better." I think in a person who is suffering from severe depression, you don't see that kind of faith. And I think that's the very dangerous aspect of depression that leads to suicidal feelings, is that you really just don't see when it's going to get better. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no end to this pain that you're feeling.
I was with my sister on a Thursday night. She was comparing herself to some students in her class, and just overly emotional and not wanting to do her work. And usually, I mean, she's on top of things, you know. She was definitely very emotional, very confused, and kind of feeling